We come here to do the dog, y'all. But before we do the dog, we gonna do a little bit of knee deep. Y'all remember knee deep? Flashlight. Y'all remember flashlight? What about standing on the verge of getting it on? What about maggot brain?
Maggot brain.
Yeah. If you will suck my soul, I will lick your funky emotions tonight. All that is good is nasty. It ain't nothing good unless you play with it. And most that is good is wet. Welcome to the mothership team. Thank you, Cleveland. Let's get this shit on the road, y'all. Just put your hands together real easy. Don't hurt yourself. You ain't got to stand up yet, because we're going to be up here all night. We'll tell you when to stand up, okay? But y'all can put your hands together. That will help us all get off, okay? Everybody put your hands together. Check it out. Tear the roof off. We come to tear the roof off, the motherfucker. Tear the roof off, the sucker. Tear the roof off. We come to tear the roof off, the motherfucker. Tear the roof off, the sucker.
Oh my gosh.
George get you in trouble.
George.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that, Steve.
That had some, well, but it was an artistic statement. Now we can't be talking like that, but that was art. Anyway, Vic, we're right back in the same place again.
We are, man. We are. This is my youth. This is my people, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh man, this is last week Prince, this week Dennis and Parliament and Skeet and Granger and Simon, Anthony Jackson, Steve
Anders.
Insane. And like we always start with it's these are so easy because when you just fill up the room with household names, you don't even have to introduce anybody. Everybody already knows who everybody is. And the Google goes into overdrive here as the audience is researching. But this is fun. The way we usually like to start, we kind of go around the room, and if you can just tell us what you were doing before COVID-19 came upon us, and how your life kind of changed at that point, and then how you're dealing with it now several months into it. And I love how these stories evolve, the longer we are coping and dealing and making lemonade out of lemons. So we should start. I want to start with my man with almost the Boston Red Sox hat on. But wait a minute. Close.
I got to cover it up.
Man, Skeet Curtis has been, I can speak for Victor. I can speak for everybody in here. You've been a huge influence on all of us.
Thank you.
And I know you were busy and right when everything kind of hit the fan. So want to tell us what happened and what it's like now?
Well, we left, I want to say early March, first, second week in March, to go to Europe. So it was just starting, it was kind of crazy in the beginning, but it's like, like everybody, that's no big thing. Let's just go see what happens. So we're in Europe. First stop was Switzerland. As soon as we land, okay, there's a 5,000 seat limit. Then the next day, we're working our way across Europe. The next day, there's a 1,000 seat limit. Then the day after that, 500. And by the time we got to France, it was like all bets are off now. So we're in the south of France on, when did they impose I think that the travel ban was enacted on the 16th. So we're in the south of France on the 14th. So we have to drive to Germany, to Frankfurt, in order to get out to one of the few airports that you could fly into from Europe. So I flew into JFK, the day before the madness that you saw on TV. So when I got to JFK, I swear it couldn't have been 300 people in the airport.
Skeet,
Breezed through customs, got home, and I've been sitting here since then. I had to do a drive-by for Dennis's birthday on the night. So which kind of,
and Skeet, that recording that we opened up with, that was you?
yes,
So that was you and Dennis.
that was me and Dennis. That wasn't even the fast stuff. I was getting ready to tell Steve earlier, but he said, save it. So I'll save it till now. There came a point, George can play all night, but there came a point when they started, trying to box us in on those curfews and stuff. And the signal was, it would come to me that we need to get off in such amount of time. And the signal was I would turn to Dennis and do that. That means warp speed. Whatever we play is going to be really fast. Let's roll through it. Yep, that's it. Let's go. I kind of look around, everybody. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, gone. And however long it lasts, it lasts. But I never blew a curfew. Never blew one. Never went even 1 second past.
Because those fines will get stiff.
Yeah, back in those days, I think it was something crazy, like maybe 10,000 a minute or something.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
And just half your pay, man. That's not a good.
No, that's half your pay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just to be clear for everyone out there, when you say George
Clinton.
Yeah. Anybody think George Benson?
George Jefferson. Maybe.
George Duke?
Yeah. George Benson. George Jefferson.
Yeah, George Clinton. Right.
George Stephanopoulos.
We don't get into politics much. No.
Yeah. You can't help it these days.
So, Dennis, you looking chill?
I am chill.
Yeah? And now I know you, of all people, you ain't never home.
Well, look at yourself.
No, man, I'm a Dennis Chambers wannabe. Man, you are the most working, person I think that I know with so many different people. How has it been for you to be at home?
Well, I mean, it's been a blast. I mean, I really enjoy myself here with the family and having the grandkids come over, having my grand dog come over.
Grand dog?
Yeah, I got a grand dog, yeah.
Wow.
It's a little thing, look like a little rat running around here in the house.
Wow. So
but I've been home since December 20th.
And I think I know that answer. Have you played a drum at all since you've been home?
I've done some recordings.
Oh.
I got some to do coming up, I think coming up Friday or Saturday.
Oh, wow. That surprised me, actually.
But, I mean, it's just, man, I can go to sleep and that thing is done. It's so easy.
Yeah. I mean, you're one of these musicians that I know that you'll get home, not touch a drum.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any drums in the house.
No.
All my stuff is at the warehouse. The only drum kit I have at the house is the Max Roach kit, Art Blakey's kit, Papa Joe's kit, I believe.
Thank you.
But I don't play them. They're just sitting there. I go look at them and that's a drum kit, all right, and just walk off.
I do know you had some reconstruction done on your house. Are there no drums there because of that, or just because you don't want them there?
I don't want them there.
Wow.
Yeah, but Vic, check this out. How many basses you got in the house, Dennis?
Look at that smile.
I think everybody here has probably contributed to his bass.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's got a signature bass from everybody here. I'm reasonably sure.
Mm-hmm.
And a few
In the
that
house.
aren't here too.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still working on Anthony's.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
That.
So Gary,
I think I have about 30 or 35 basses down there.
Wow.
that's wrong.
Wow.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, Gary, tell us where we'll speed through this and then we'll get into some other stuff. But where were you when all the stuff went down and how are you?
Doing fine. It's like a catch-22 thing for me. We were working on a lot of my old band Pockets.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing material and getting set up for that, doing some videos and EPKs and recordings right in the middle when this stuff happened in March. So it allowed us to really concentrate on that part of the situation, like getting in the media, the Spotify, and getting all that set up, redoing the website. But it was drag looking at the calendar, watching everything, all the tours go canceled, canceled, canceled,
Yeah.
canceled. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be in here for a while. But yeah. So it was like, catch-22 thing for me.
Yeah.
It's been good hanging out with my girls though.
Yeah. I'd love to hear from Peter, where you were and what's going on in your world and academically what's going on.
Thanks, Steve. Greetings, everyone. It's great to see you all.
Thank you, sir.
And just regarding the teaching aspect of all of this, I was curious. I wanted to ask everyone on the panel what we noticed, and it was a surprise to me, was that the lessons, once we went online, seemed to have more focus and were more productive than lessons in the prior 2 or 3 months. Maybe everyone was putting their best foot forward, but I don't know. Maybe it's because younger people are so used to getting their information from the screen. Did anyone else have? I mean, I think we've all kind of had it up to here with the whole Zoom thing. No offense, but it's surprisingly not a bad way to get information to people. Does anyone else feel that way?
Yeah, I do. Actually.
It's so, that's one thing we talk about in this group. It's called ABC. It's the Academic Base Council from Alfonso's a part of it from USC and all the big colleges. But that's been one observation, is that you're right. Students these days have grown up like this, looking into a phone and communicating that way. And one of my faculty noticed, even before COVID, when we tried to do some online makeup lessons, that students' attention seems to be a little more, they can focus in and not have the distractions. Of course, the hard part, and I'm glad to hear you say it, Peter, is for us older people sometimes of how to adapt to that and come to accept it, that there's actually could be some benefits to this. And that's a rare observation, because some of us don't want to admit it. Victor, you were saying in Nashville,
No, in Nashville, they open things up. It's supposed to meet this criteria. You start at level 1, and if everybody meets the criteria, they go to level 2, and if everybody meets the criteria, they go to 3. Well, they went to level 2, and our numbers, COVID numbers, skyrocketed. And they went to level 3 anyway, so they just opened stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the highest case of daily cases, higher than when the whole thing first started in March.
Yeah.
But they're still opening up, and I see so many people without masks at the stores and everything. Because you got to go to a store every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
So our family, we're like Peter, we're taking it serious, and and you go to the stores, and it's pretty amazing that people are out without masks and stuff, and I don't want to wish them any ill. I hope they don't get it. But D.L. Hughley, the comedian, passed out on stage right here in Nashville during his second show. He found out he was asymptomatic, but he tested positive too, and it was so sad to hear that. So things are getting spread around, and we don't even know it. So
passing out on stage is asymptomatic.
Well, they said he was dehydrated and all that.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah. But when they tested him, so he's in Nashville right now because he has to stay put for the next 2 weeks.
You know, all of us here know people, especially in our business, who have died from this. And I think that keeps it real for many of us. And a lot of people out in the real world, if it doesn't touch you directly, it's not quite as relevant. But I've got relatives and 6 musicians I know that have died from it. So it's for real. Simon,
Yes.
tell us what's up.
So, actually, like Peter, I returned from Europe on March the 1st. And I was supposed to leave for Japan on March the 6th. And so those few days, as things were really becoming apparent that this was very serious and things were moving very quickly, I was in contact with the people I was supposed to go with, and it got canceled March the 4th. And then, so that was the first thing. And then I was supposed to do a prog rock cruise, leaving Miami.
That sounds like an oxymoron, cruising on prog rock. But
It really does. It was Yes were the main band, and there were going to be actually a lot of people on this cruise. I was going there with my band, and Yes pulled out. They said, no, it's going to go ahead. And then, of course, it didn't. And everything else went by the wayside, just like everybody.
yeah, I think. Man, we didn't check in with John. John, what's going on with you?
I echo a lot of the sentiments about family. First of all, I can't remember the last time I was home for 3.5 months. I don't even know what decade we have to go back to for that. Like most everybody here, we've been out here a while. So that's a huge thing, being with my daughters. The quarantining thing has been like, at first I came back, I was out on the West Coast doing some recording and a concert in Las Vegas. And literally they closed the venue right after my show. And I had a couple days recording there for this dude, and then came back and slept in another room for a while to quarantine because we take care of my 90-year-old mother-in-law. And so I stayed away from my wife and my mother-in-law for a couple of weeks. Then my daughters came home eventually. They've been protesting. I went out for one of the marches, but my wife's not going out on any marches because she's got to take care of my mother-in-law, so we got to keep her cool. So we're just trying to be really careful, and it's been very intense. Obviously, not just for the COVID reason, but obviously for the justice reason and all the things that need to be changed. But I am thankful that I have some recording work in my studio where I'm sitting, and teaching online. The amount of gigs that got canceled between March and August is astronomical, and I didn't even want to think about it. So I'm trying to chip away and make up for as much of the difference as I can. But I'm thankful that I have a roof over my head and I'm eating food, and my family's with me, and my mother-in-law is still alive at 90. So,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's everybody. We've gone through that portion anyway, because I'm looking here at Dennis Chambers, and just a testament to his impact in music. I would say drums, but it's just music in general. And I look around and I look in the audience and reaching out to people, how important Dennis is to all of us, and how inspirational he is. And in doing my history, I mean, mainly when I'm around Dennis, I'm just trying to hold on to one, and that's the only thing I'm looking for. But in doing some research and digging back and knowing the music, and following you, Skeet, Curtis, and Dennis, can can you guys talk a bit about your history? Because I think through that, it kind of opens the prism into what Dennis Chambers is and has been. But it if I'm not wrong, it started with you guys.
You want this one, or do you want me to take it, Dennis?
Go ahead, Skeet.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Let me get comfortable.
Remember the rules, Skeet. Remember the rules.
Right. So I'm late teens. Yeah. So Dennis is early teens. We're playing. I played in a band that was basically based on the west side, but Dennis lived on the east side, and we rehearsed on the east side. He would come to rehearsal.
East and west of Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's at rehearsal or after rehearsal, he's banging on a table with some drumsticks, killing it at however old he was. And, so I was like, yeah, that dude's got some stuff happening. So we would see each other around town, da-da-da-da-da. Fast forward a few years later, he happens to be driving up the street near where I lived. The band he was in was looking for a bass player. So he hollers at me through the window, say, hey, this guy, he plays bass. I had no intention of playing with him, with the band. But at that time, our drummer was getting a little busy. He was handling the management things and all of that. And I said, maybe I can get this guy. So I went to this was Black Eyed Peas, not the Black Eyed Peas you know about, but another Black Eyed Peas.
Before the Black Eyed Peas.
Right, before that. So I go to their rehearsal. It goes good. I get the gig, but as I said, I was there under false pretenses. So I concocted this story. At the time there were these 5 drums, see-through drums, fiberglass. Everybody, they were all the rage. Dennis would talk about these drums. I said, oh, we got a set of those.
Right.
Remember that? Yeah. Oh man, please, we got a set of those. Yeah. I gave him the address. We went over there. He comes in, he's like, where's the drums? I said, they're the drums. Oh, that's not 5s. I'm like, what 5s? What are you talking about? Yeah, so just don't worry about 5. Just sit down over there. Let's do something. So he sat down. I stole him. That's it. And then when I got the gig with P-Funk, it had always been my intention to take Dennis with me. But, George Clinton, Cush Griffith, the trumpet player with the horny horns, somehow the two of them would always run into some drummer that they knew from the past that was down on his luck or whatever. So that kept happening. I said, wait a minute, I squash this. So I came home one time, and the next gig was at Madison Square Garden. I said, Dennis, come on, go up to New York with me. Let's go. So we go up to New York. I take him to sound check. I said, sit down, play something. He sat down, he played some Brand X tune. You remember that?
Yeah.
Some Brand X tune. I don't remember what it was. Just play. You gonna play with me? No, just play. So while everybody's, jiggling chords and, kind of doing their thing, Dennis is over there killing it. Up on the riser, he's killing it. How old were you then?
I think
I was 21, so you had to be, what, 18?
Yeah, I think I was 18.
Yeah, so he said, now what? So go home. I got it from here. Never said anything to anybody. Just get up there and play. Okay, go home. We went on from there. He came back home. So it was like, where's that dude? Who was that? And then that's how the story got started. And then when a slot really opened up, then they called him and he came in. But yeah, it all started with probably the biggest lie I've ever told in my life. And if I have to do it again, I'll do it again.
Hey, Keith, if that's the biggest lie you ever told, man, I'm going to nominate you for sainthood.
Okay, maybe it wasn't big, but it's big.
So that tags into something that Vic and I love to teach. Dennis, did you have any idea that you were auditioning for P-Funk just because he basically got you to play for a sound check? Were your intentions to get the gig, or were you just hitting it on stage for a friend? Because nobody was playing with you, right? You were just, it was a drum solo.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. Skeet got me up on the drums and told me to play this Brand X song that's really little complicated for drummers to play. And I think the drummer that was on that record was Kenwood Denard.
Mm.
Yeah. And Bernie was there.
Bernie Worrell?
Yeah, Bernie was there. He was sitting there looking. Skeet's looking at him, and Skeet's like smiling, and Bernie smiling, and it was wild, man. But when I actually came in, I came in through Parlette. No, I'm sorry, Brides of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And then George, George, I guess he liked what was happening, and Skeet, and I think Skeet was the one that pushed it.
And interestingly enough, that's how I came in with Brides of Frankenstein, which they were not a band yet, but we were recording the material for them. And George like, okay. Because the band Dennis and I used to play, and Uncle Remus, we used to do this P-Funk medley.
Mm.
And while they were setting up in the studio for this session I'm doing for the brides, I'm just kind of noodling this medley. And at that time, I played a whole lot of notes. I played like really, really fast. And, I played like chords, and, I got the bass going here. I got chords going here, got a little melody going. So I'm like crazy going. And then like, George looks at me and said, why don't you come on the road with P-Funk? Just like that. And it was just supposed to be a session for the Brides of Frankenstein. But in those days I used to noodle. Now I don't, I can't, nowadays I cannot play unless I'm under pressure of some sort. I can't play relaxed anymore. So, and by pressure, I mean the pressure of getting paid, the pressure of starting at a certain time, ending at a certain time. I mean, any kind of pressure, that's the only way I can play now. I can't play like just I'm having a ball playing. That's not part of who I am anymore.
Skeet, I'll throw this in too, that really showed a part of Dennis that a lot of people don't see. And then I want to see what Gary has to say about all of this, because Dennis and Gary is another pair that a lot of us know from like another era. But I was fortunate enough to get to do my last record, my latest record, I should say, with Dennis and Bob Franceschini. And there's one song on there, and I'll back up and say most of the songs, Dennis was the last thing we added, because we all three of us, Dennis and Bob and I, live in different states. Recording was a challenge. So I would come up with a song, and I usually take drum loops and I chop them up. I might take songs from loops from Drum Genius or samples from Pro Tools or whatever, and I just chop them up to fit the song. We had this one song called Cupid that's in, I think, 6/4, and I brought Dennis to the house to record, and he's playing over this loop, but he hears the loop, and he says, I don't want to play over that. That's already perfect. I don't want to touch it. And in my head, I'm thinking, but you're Dennis Chambers. But he was like, no, it's already there. And to me, that just really surprised me, but showed a high level of musicianship, of that I don't want to add to it. It's already, that really shocked me that day, Dennis. I don't know if you remember that.
Kind of remember that,
yeah. But you left it. You left it alone. But anyway, that to me just pointed towards a high level of musicianship, where you could have played it, you could have played it differently, but you were like, that's what the song needs. I don't want to touch it. That to me was amazing.
But Vic, you paid him. I mean, for that amount of judgment, he judged not to play. So you still got to pay him for it because he had the option, right? Isn't that how the music business works?
It's like a double session.
Yeah, you gotta pay double not to play. Man.
Right.
Gary,
Yeah.
tell us some stories, man. At some point, you came into the scene. You're another Baltimore. What's up with Baltimore? Like what's
Crab
the deal?
cakes.
Incredible.
Crab cakes.
I don't know. It's the
Crab
Chesapeake Bay, gumbo,
Yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, geez, going way back with Dennis. Way back in the day when the group Pockets came out, somewhere around that time, we started playing a club called the Cafe Park Plaza and doing jam sessions. And I remember Dennis used to come in, or the whole P-Funk group used to come in and jam. And Dennis says every time he got on stage, we only play this one song. Like every time, and this went on for years. And he said, every time we got on stage, we play this. What song was that, Dennis? Do you recall?
World is a ghetto.
World's a ghetto. But I guess the best thing I like about Dennis is he can play like a groove. You may have tom-toms, all the stuff. He'll play pocket and won't move.
Right.
Won't move.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say solo, look out.
Yeah.
There's one.
Look out.
Oh, who let the dogs out?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that time when and this was even before, I think it was before Pockets. Dennis was small and came into this club playing with a guitar player I was playing with named O'Donnell Levy.
Oh, right.
And he was coming from a drum rehearsal, something.
Yeah.
And he, I saw Dennis, I wanted to sit in, he wanted to sit in, but all he had was those big metal drumsticks, right?
Yeah.
And the drummer said, no, I don't want, you can't, you want to use his sticks.
Yeah.
And he said, no, you can't, no, you can't use my stick, I use your own. He said, you sure? After Dennis got finished playing, those drums were beat up. We was laughing, it was crazy.
I walked off like, yeah, nice drum set, man. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, they were nice.
They're all dents and everything.
Hey, how does Schofield get both of you guys? How did that happen?
I got into the Schofield band a year before Dennis. Mainly, I was playing with Ricky Sebastian. He was the drummer when I came in.
Right. Yep.
But Schofield was saying that he was looking for something a little more. So we were coming from Japan, and Dennis was playing in San Francisco.
At the Great American.
Yeah. And I brought Schofield down there. I said, okay, check him out. And of course, Dennis did his thing, amazing groove. And then when the solo comes, he blows it up. So it's like, yeah, so that's how that all happened. And when he got in, we just kind of connected. Schofield used to send the songs, the sketch of the songs with the charts down. We would get the basic idea. And then we kind of take it our way.
That's so killing.
I think because of that,
Hey, let me jump in for a second because I know a couple people here are limited in time, but I don't know how Zoom. It has a mind of its own, but it's lined up 4 drummers across the bottom of my screen. It's like it's segregating the bass players and the drummers, and I look at this line of drummers and I'm just freaking out. And we already heard from Peter and Simon. I want to get a little bit more from them in a second, but Greg was the next one to pop in. Greg, you're always sitting at a drum set. Are you right now?
I am.
Man,
Hi,
play play your favorite Dennis Chambers groove, just real quick.
How about a bad version of what I just heard? That's about the word. That's nowhere near Dennis, though. What a feel, Dennis. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
What's up, Big Greg?
Hey, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. I know you're recording today. One of us has a gig. Might as well be you.
Great to see all of you. Hey, guys.
And the great Omar Hakim, woo, man, lounging in New Jersey. I can tell where you're sitting, Omar. You're having mercy on us this time. You're not showing us the lake in the background, are you?
Dennis, it's great to see you, man.
Same here, my brother.
And Peter and everybody, man. Love you guys so much. Oh my gosh. Simon, great stuff. And Steve, thank you for inviting me to this, man. This is awesome.
Well, it's all about they're trying to keep us socially distant, and bass and drums got to hang. You know, we can't get through a coronavirus crisis, at least, you know, hanging with our peeps.
No
Thank
doubt.
you for being here, all of you.
No doubt.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, a big thanks to Simon. You know, when I was hospitalized in Spain, he came by and saw me in the hospital, and he played a major role of me getting home. Big help of me getting home.
Wow.
I want to say thanks to you, Simon. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
Wow. Wow.
Friends.
Yeah.
Back, you know.
Yeah.
How long ago was that, Dennis? It was on a Stern tour, right?
Yeah, I think that was like, I'd say 6-7 years, I think. Maybe even longer. I don't know. I can't remember. I try to put all that behind me.
Maybe 6 years or so, yeah.
I never want to think about me dying when the way they found me. I was turning gray and I was on my way out of here.
Auntie and I were in, it was Valencia, right?
Yeah.
It was Valencia, and Auntie and I were with Hiromi.
Yeah.
We came in the next day, the next couple of days, and came to see you.
Wow.
And also thank Uncle Pete, because he, Peter Erskine, that is. You know, there were many nights I used to sit there and listen to some of those records he had done. And I couldn't believe it was Peter, but it was Peter on, what's that guy's name is? John Serry.
Oh, jeez.
John Serry's records, and then the Bob James stuff. I mean, you know, like one thing I learned about Peter and Gad is just that you could drop these two guys in any situation.
That's right.
Any type of music, and it sound like, you know, like they wrote it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Dennis, you're one that I've heard. I'm sorry, Simon.
No, go.
Dennis, you're one that I've heard repeatedly say that you don't practice. And I want to understand that, because you either must have practiced so much, but you know, we hear all these stories. We've all heard you play. How does that happen?
From the age of 4 up until I joined P-Funk. Actually, I stopped practicing when I was with P-Funk. And I think it was because of the training I got from Buddy Rich and Billy Cobham, which is playing on pillows. And, you know, where you're breaking in, you know, limbs a lot faster, like your muscles a lot faster. And also teaching you how to use your fingers and wrist as well. But then music had changed too. So for me, there goes my doorbell. For me, it was. I mean, everything I learned up to that point, the only direction I had to go with is to follow Skeet, because Skeet was like directing the band with P-Funk. So as long as we were together, you know, it never failed. But you know, I mean, I don't believe in like you have to practice. I mean, whatever you put in your brain is like a computer. That's what comes out of it. And so for me, it's like I don't have to practice like riding a bicycle. I already know how to ride a bicycle. I already know how to play drums. So if and when I do practice, I'll try to practice or play things that I don't know. Mm. And that's why I'm always listening to all the other drummers just to see where they are, what they're doing, and what I can get from them. Because believe me, there was a many nights, man, I used to sit there and when Gad came on the scene, and I mean, yeah, I just couldn't. I just practiced till I get it. Sometimes things would come, and I just refused to believe it was just that simple what he was playing. Like he played this song called Sicilian, I think it was, and it was a paradiddle. But the way he played it, I refused to believe it was a paradiddle. Right? So, but then, you know, like listening to all other musicians such as saxophone players, because I love John Coltrane and like we all do, and also Alan Holdsworth, you know, Jimi Hendrix, and John McLaughlin as well.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it was you know, by me listening to all of these styles of music, they made me become a better player, and I didn't have to practice those things. I already had the mental and the physical side to do this. And that's what's important with drummers. You know, once they reach that physical, when they get the physical and mental side together on the same plateau, everything else is like pretty much, you know, you just hear it and just go. For me, anyway, it's like that. I don't know about Greg and Peter.
I got a great Dennis Chambers. I got a great story about you in LA doing a clinic, and you were saying you didn't practice much anymore, and all of a sudden I went and picked you up at your hotel, and you said, hey, can we stop by Tower Records on Sunset? Of course. And we stopped by, and I never saw anybody buy as many VHS drummer videotapes in my life. And man, you studied those. You were just a hawk, and you would sit there and you'd watch and you'd learn. And that's practicing, man, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis was always listening in the back of the tour bus, on the airplane. I mean, he would fall asleep with headphones on. And I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, just that absorption of information. And then we would see it come out that night on stage. I'm sure everybody that's played with Dennis has seen that. Whatever he's looking at that day, boom, it just comes out of him. It's just amazing.
Hey, this kind of goes out, I mean, to Dennis and every drummer that's in here. You know, all of you are stylistically so diverse, and you know, I'm just curious with Dennis and anybody else, because people, you know, we tend to focus on that thing we do or whatever it is, and everybody I'm seeing here, like Peter, the first time I was reminding Peter the first time we played together when I was 17 at a National Association of Jazz Educators camp, and all I knew was Peter was this great, played with Stan Kenton and this jazz, and we played straight ahead stuff for about 45 horn players, and the next thing I know, I see you with Weather Report and all the evolution, and I can say the same about Greg, and I can say the same about Omar, and I can say the exact same about Simon and Dennis. I mean, you guys aren't the exception to the rule. You're just at the highest level of that rule. So what advice do any of you have for students out there as far as the reasons to stylistically diversify that way?
I think in order to play from a drummer's perspective, in order to play music, you have to have a knowledge of many different styles. I know when I was growing up, I was always encouraged to listen to all styles of music. My advice to young players today, because when you're young, you know, you have the blinkers on, and I want to be a heavy metal drummer, you know. It's really important as a drummer to learn how to play many styles of music, because you can adapt that and you pull from all those influences to play one particular song that you might be doing, recording in a studio. I think that's very important. It is important for all musicians, but the one thing I think drummers have to do is be very diverse stylistically.
Yeah.
And then you can create and you know, pick and choose. You start by copying, and then you slowly make it your own with your own sound and your own approach. I just think it's so important.
I'll jump in here real quick. I tell my students, I said, it's actually quite simple. Just play what you'd like to hear. Don't play what you think someone else might want to hear. Of course, versatility is important, but we can look to Maestro Ron Carter, who I was just listening to last night on a recording. And Ron Carter is the glue of so much of the music that I think we've all listened to. Music of many different styles and feelings, and yet Ron Carter always sounds like Ron Carter, and thank God for that. So, you know, the best way to find your voice is to have an idea of what that voice might be. So, I echo everyone else. Just listen to as much music as you can, learn the vocabulary, and then be yourself.
It's amazing, you know, when you say that Herbie would sit down and play like Red Garland or you know, that everybody had done their homework. But I also know that Tony had played a big part in all of us as bass players, double bass players, of being amplified now. Like you, from my understanding and from my ear, that was born out of necessity with Tony as well, wasn't it?
Well, you know, I think most bass players at that time got tired of being the last guy to the gig, and the only microphone left was one tied to a towel between a sound pole, between the tailpiece and the bass. So they kind of got tired of that leftover spam can for a microphone, you know. And as the electric bass became more and more prominent and more audible, the upright players at some point, bless their souls, decided that we should have the same kind of audio presence way past the music stand that they were hiding behind. Those are some of the things that made the bass player want to be a real audible presence, not just in his band, but so their grandmother who's sitting in row 89X up in the third balcony can hear every note rather than the last one you played at the house last week.
Amen. I'm glad this is recorded because there's some pearls of wisdom that will require some revisiting on my part. But so most of the drummers have, you know, we've almost got it balanced out here between bass and drums. I'm always looking for that balance, but they were reflecting on something about Dennis that either upset them or inspired them or affected them in some way, and I'm sure you have a Dennis experience that is well PG related and something that we can talk.
No, I mean I've known Dennis a very, very long time. I mean, I've known Dennis before everybody said, "Whoa, Dennis." I mean, Dennis was always, "Whoa, Dennis," but I've known him for such a long time. I mean, so for me, like, to see him get his due is great. But, you know, we're talking about back in neighborhood, and all that kind of stuff. So I've known him such a long time, man. And as I said, he just called me 2 days ago. So we spoke. I didn't even know that this was happening. So it's nice to see him again and speak with him again, and see all the other people that are on the I'm actually, I got to break away soon because I'm actually in the studio doing something, but I wanted to be able to chime in and talk with Dennis, and now talk with everybody. It's great. But for a story, Dennis, what story should I tell him?
By the time I had to push, we were pushing your car in New York City in the Porsche.
I've heard this story. You got to tell it. Tell it.
No, I'm not telling it. Let him tell it.
For some strange reason, I think, Lenny, you were recording with Bernard Wright, I think, at A&R Studios.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I did a track, I think that day or something, and I heard you were coming in, so I hung out. But at that time, also, I was staying in New York. I was staying in Queens with Don Blackman. So Lenny was going to drive me over to Don's house from Manhattan. And he's got this beautiful yellow Porsche. Was it yellow?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. 911. 911, yeah.
The thing was beautiful. So the guy got it out, he got it out of the
parking garage
lot and put it on the street. And when Lenny got in it started up and the thing died.
That's right.
So here we are, like we were pushing a Porsche in Manhattan City, like.
I had a few problems with that car. Yes, I did.
Oh, you're too kind.
Hey, Billy, thanks for dropping in. I'm sure you know most everybody here, but you might as well hit the ground running. Your work with Dennis, with Niacin, I got to hear you guys a couple of times. It's amazing stuff. But just share a little bit of that with us, because you're in a trio situation, and from bass players, like if I had to pick a match, like the perfect bass player and Dennis, I mean, as perfect as you guys sounded together, that wouldn't immediately pop into my head. I mean that with the greatest of respect for both of you, obviously. But can you tell us how all that came about? And then, I've been a fan ever since.
And Billy, if I could, Billy, can I throw something else in really quickly? If you don't mind adding to it, I've heard you over and over credit Dennis with a part of how well you play in your time. If you can throw in what you're talking about when you say that also.
Well, what an honor to be amongst probably the most distinguished group of players I've ever seen on the same page. Wow, just amazing. Thanks for including me. I'm quite humbled here. But Dennis, my whole life I played with straight up 2/4 rock and roll, and suddenly Dennis comes along, and I remember the first time we were in the studio, he did this fill, and I thought to myself, because I was kind of somewhat, I guess I'm the producer because I was there, and for a Niacin song, and I thought, that fill doesn't sound right, man. I'm not sure. I don't think it's landing right. And I thought, I better say something. I better be careful about what I say here because that's Dennis Chambers. So it goes by again, and I'm thinking, oh, come on, I got to do my job here and bring it up. It goes by one more time, just as I was about to open my mouth, and I realized, to a great revelation, it is right in. It is right on. But I didn't get it. And I was going to take my big old size 13 and I put that in my mouth. But Dennis, you changed my life, man. I love you so much. I know you know that, but I got to shout it from the rooftops. And we had an unusual pairing, a rock guy with a real musician, two real musicians. And Lenny too. Lenny was involved in the song. Man, what an amazing player, man. I love you so much, and all of you cats. It's just the greatest. Thanks for letting me chime in on the greatest musician I know on any instrument, and I say that time and time again, is Dennis Chambers.
Wow.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I mean it.
Gee whiz. Thank you, Billy. So, Dennis, one thing I'm curious about, and we were talking about it earlier, and I was listening to some Steve Kahn, that some stuff that you and Anthony did, and I'd love to hear a little more about that whole process of you and Anthony back in the day. Any thoughts and recollections and musical tidbits that maybe students and anybody else out there could learn from, Anthony or Dennis, if you remember?
Yeah, I kind of remember Steve calling me up to ask if I would play on a record of some sort. And then I did that, and Steve really liked the way I played and included me on some other things. And then there was a tour coming up for Eyewitness, and Steve wanted me to play drums, and I'm going like, man, I got to play with Anthony. Jesus Christ, this is going to be great, But every night, man, I never heard Anthony play the same thing, the night before. And some of the stuff, I remember guitar players especially, they would solo, and they playing a lot of notes, and then Anthony played 2 notes, and the guy would stop. And then I would, like, after the show, I would ask questions like, why did you stop? He says, man, the 2 notes that Anthony played, it felt like he ripped my pants off right in front of the audience. And then there's me, like I'm throwing everything but the kitchen sink at Anthony, and he never moved. I think one time I almost got him. I was doing a drum solo, and I'm playing on the beat, off the beat, around the beat, on the other side of the beat, whatever. And then I played For the Love of Money. And then he heard it, I guess. He was ready to go. He go. But he turned around and looked at me and go.
Yeah, don't go there. You can't go there. You can go anywhere around the beat, inside the beat, back, but don't go there.
Right.
Anthony, do you remember that?
Yes. I hadn't thought of it since we did that.
Right.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, Chambers. Yeah.
Somebody asked, what was something you wish you knew when you were 18 that you know today?
How to play Latin music. And also, I was really deeply into jazz and trying to play that, or try to play like Tony Williams and Elvin Jones. Pretty much had the Mac stuff down, but it was just Tony. Tony was just really special, and Elvin was really special. Because first of all, Elvin never played the norm. Meaning that when you listen to Elvin, you didn't hear like the like Max Roach way of playing coming out of that. But Tony, man, he was just a total different kind of drummer. Like the left hi-hat had a different zip code than the rest of his hands and feet, Mm-hmm. I've seen him and heard him play some really amazing things back then and right up until he died. It was just special, man. When he's on, watch out.
Wow.
Watch out.
Insane, but I'm going to get each bass player to talk about their greatest satisfaction and their biggest fear of playing with Dennis Chambers. I've already heard from a couple, but go ahead, just spill whatever you need to spill.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here, but you guys, I'm really nervous actually. But Dennis, he taught me a lot. And I want to talk to all the bass students out there. You got to hang with really great drummers to get better, and for some reason I must have really, really sucked because fate said, you got to play with Dennis Chambers, man. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for teaching me like a lot about life, and which is music, you know. I tell my son now, and it's great that you're around, because you know how your parents in the audience, you know, like, you know, your kids don't listen to you, right? But if you can like point them to a hero and say, you know, well, this guy, say, so my son is a drummer now, and Dennis is, of course, you know, one of his main heroes. And I'm always, when he was starting to learn, I'd hear, you know, we'd be in the car, he put on Dennis Chambers Niacin, he put on Dennis Chambers this, Dennis and Victor, and they're like, yes, I know. He's really good. I played with him for 10 years straight, you know. And so I told them that, you know, the best musicians are the best people. And if you're a good person, you're going to be a really good musician. And Dennis is like one of the best people I know, the most solid, trustworthy, you know, just straight up human beings I know. And then I tell him, listen to his playing, and it says it all.
I just want a shorter string so there's not much play.
Hey, Dennis, a lot of bass players out there want to know what it's like. Like, what are you looking for in a bass player? I look at all of these great players here, and I see a lot of similarities, but I see some diverging styles. Like, what makes you comfortable where you are, and about these particular people?
Well, I mean, you know, everybody on the screen here, you know, when they play, they're not just listening to themselves. They're listening to the overall picture or the overall scene of what's on stage at that moment. And it's important for you know, myself to, like, when I walk into a room, it's not the Dennis Chambers show. It's our show. Or if I'm walking into a studio, if for those who read music, you know, the first thing you see when they hand you a chart, it says drums. It don't say Steve Gadd. It don't say Lenny. It don't say any drum. It's like any drummer who can read this and make this feel good, they got the gig. So by me not being a reader, I had to be like way up on my game, you know. And I think, you know, playing with Carlos Santana, it kind of burnt a few brain cells, because all I had to learn every day was like learning new music. And, but you know, one thing one thing about him is like he's constantly looking for things to happen. And the minute you stop playing some new stuff or try to bring something in, then he would take your head off.
Dennis, I know you don't read. You're clear that you don't read, but I don't think I've ever met a musician with a musical memory like yours. What do you attribute to that, or do you attribute anything to that?
No, I don't. No, it was just the way I was taught, or the way I learned how to play. But Lenny, you don't read either, do you, Lenny?
I spell.
Oh. But you know, the moment I heard you know, people like Buddy Rich and
George Benson
that don't read, it's amazing to me. And like I used to listen to, and still do listen to, a lot of those Return to Forever records, and I got a mess load of audio, you know, board tapes and stuff like that. And
that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah. You gonna pass them my way?
You got them on. You have them on.
Hey, Dennis, I'll from a education standpoint, your name, when I have to surprisingly argue with somebody about the importance of reading and about how integral it is to most of our careers, they'll cite you and Lenny and George and this list of names of people that didn't read, and that's all well and good. I really believe that not being able to read, because they say necessity is the mother of invention, and that you had no choice but to remember this stuff. And Lenny, I got kind of the same question for you from some of Romantic Warrior and all of that stuff that's so through composed. But my question is, if you had to do it over again, I mean, obviously you both have built your career in amazing ways, and maybe you've developed those skills. But would there be any reason earlier in your career, or would you encourage other students to follow that path, or add in amongst all the other skills you need, the skills of reading?
You got it, Dennis.
I think it was still on you there. 'Cause I like to hear the answer to that one myself.
Well, I'll tell you quite honestly, for me, I learned how to create music before I learned how to play it. And my perspective is that it's the same as you, Dennis. I mean, like when you hear stuff, you hear what it is that you're supposed to do, and you do it.
Yeah.
That, you know, I got my first record date, you know, I got into a situation where I didn't have any music to read, but Miles Davis said, think of this as a big pot of stew, and I want you to be salt. So what musical knowledge am I going to call upon for me to sound like salt? So the fact is that I had to create whatever it is that I thought would work for that situation. And I had to use whatever tools that I had gotten up to that point to do that. So I started from creating music, as opposed to later on, once I got to a point where like I could do what I could do and it was acceptable, then I really learned how to play. Taking whatever situation I had and trying to make it work, like Dennis Chambers does every time I hear him play.
But Lenny, if you had it to do all over again, would you work that into your skill sets?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, you know, the situation though, for me, what happened, Steve, is that I had gotten I did this record in 1969. I did about 3 records in 1969. One of the records that I did was with Ron Carter. And Ron Carter saved my life on that record. It was called Passing Ships. And it was with piano player Andrew Hill. And, you know, I also did a record with Woody Shaw that Ron Carter played on, and he saved my life too. Basically, the fact is that, you know, you have to listen to what it is that you're supposed to do and make the best of it. And if you do have a master musician like Ron Carter saying, okay, yeah, this is what you got to do. You got to stay here or stay there. Then it becomes easier to try to do that. But if you are a young musician and you really want to become a professional and to be able to take what it is, your skills, and amp on that, and to be able to play all different kinds of musics in different situations, then of course you do need to put that into your skill set so that you can go to a studio, someone puts a chart in front of you, and you can read it. So yes, I would say that you should do that, definitely.
Hey, Ron, I have a question for Chester.
Yeah.
What was it like playing with Frank Zappa, man? Really?
Oh man, I still say it was probably the best school I ever went to. I thought I could read music when I joined the band, and then I learned how to read music while I was in there. It was amazing, man. Fortunately, I played with him during a happy period of his life. You know, we all laughed a lot. He hung out with the band a lot. I understand that wasn't always the case later. And of course, George Duke was in the band. That, you know, that helped a lot. It was the biggest culture shock I'd ever experienced, because I came out of Baltimore kind of, you know, I mean, I remember the last gig I played in Baltimore was a Saturday night. I mean, this was a part of town, man. You couldn't have paid me to go in if it wasn't a gig in there, you know, one of those places.
Not like Cherry Hill.
And the gig was charged, down Jill Watkins, actually. So then, you know, Monday, I'm in this rehearsal with these people that seemed to be hippies to me, but the musicianship was frightening, you know. So, yeah, it was really cool because every day you were confronted with something, at least I was, that I, in a lot of cases, just couldn't do. And, you know, but Frank had a way of teaching that stuff, which is why all those bands were so tight. He's not known as a teacher, but I think that was one of his biggest qualities. And, man, the next day you could do it. In fact, the thing that set the bar for me, one day in rehearsal, he Duke to play this one thing, and you know, because he had like the state of the art keyboard rig in those days with a Fender, a Wurlitzer, I think it was an ARP and a Moog. That was as good as it got then. So Frank had George wanted him to play this one line in 4, then play another line in 3 along with it, no problem. Then he gave this line to sing in 5 over all of that, and these all had a common one, right? And George tried it a few times, and he said, "Sorry, Frank, I can't do that, man, but I'll have it tomorrow." And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we'll see. And the next day, George did it like he'd been doing it all his life. And to me, that set the bar. It's like, okay, whatever it is, you do whatever you got to do. So I didn't sleep that first month of rehearsals. You know, we rehearsed. There was also my first reaction. My first experience with rehearsing 40 hours a week. And I'd go to bed about 11:30, wake up about 2 or 3 in the morning, practice for at least an hour, hour and a half, go back to sleep, get up, have breakfast, and go do it again. So yeah, that, you know,
wow.
Basically you felt like your brain would sweat on, in those rehearsals, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, because I bought a box set of you guys. I think it was at Live at Roxy's, I think it was.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And man, I can't believe all that music that you had to play. It was insane.
Well, it was mostly written, but he would not let you take charge on stage, so you had to memorize all that stuff as well. Yeah.
You know, I was sharing some with Sean, your son, and because I don't think he heard that box set, and when he came here, I played it for him. I played him some pieces, you know, like really impossible pieces to play, for me anyway.
Yeah, right.
That stuff, man. I always wondered what was it like? Because I remember Frank. I got a call from Frank Zappa's office, and they were trying to get me to play. Actually, it was your recommendation.
I pushed real hard to try to get you in there.
Yeah, that's right. And talking to Frank, and I'm like overwhelmed and all that stuff, and I said to Frank, like, listen, man, I have to be very truthful. I don't know how to read music, so he says, that's all right. By the time you get through all these rehearsals, you would know it.
And he's got a lot of nerve saying you playing all that crazy stuff with Zappa. I mean, that's the pot and the kettle there. Hey, you know what's amazing? We're kind of winding down on time, but I'm realizing here, and it's something I love to emphasize to students, is that we get to this point, and everybody's watching this just like I am, in kind of shock and awe of the actual magnitude of what's on the screen. And I always want to remind students that this is, you all are here because you want to be here. I mean, and all of that comes from relationships that have been built over years and years and years, and relationships that have been nurtured. But when I look at the relationships in this room now, I mean, I see it just kind of freaking me out. I see almost the whole Weather Report lineage on drums sitting here. I mean, and raise your hand if you weren't in the audience anywhere influenced by Weather Report. And then I look again, and I see a Miles Davis legacy. You know, Lenny just bopped out, and Benny and Ron, and I see all of this connection that's wild. And I've had the honor of working with a whole lot of you in various crazy recording situations, even with Dennis, a duet on an album that's just coming out. But Dennis and I have it's an album of all duets. And Dennis, I think you heard what we did. I released it anyway, despite your objections. But it really is. It's just amazing, and I just want to emphasize to the people out there that stuff like this, money can't make something like this happen. You know, people wanting to do this and people wanting to hang out and going through the crisis and going through all we're going through. So I just want to tell you all how grateful I am, and for Dennis, you know, agreeing to do it, and then the testament of how great of influence somebody is by the people that say, yes, I want to be a part of this. So I'm grateful, but as we, Dennis, man, you may remember this, but everybody's talking about you making them nervous one time. But I was recollecting with Simon not long ago about, I don't know how many decades ago, we were in Frankfurt, and something happened, and this ties in Anthony as well, because Simon had a record that he just recorded that Anthony and I don't know who else was on it, Simon, but you were performing that music. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do.
And somehow a bass player didn't show up, and they came around, and I was there at the show, and somebody said, well, he reads well. And I remember talking to Simon, and Simon, I think it was Doug Wimbish, said, I don't want to do it. I can't read that stuff. And they pointed at me and said I could read. So we actually met then. I think we skied later or something like that, but we met then. And then I said, yeah, I can read okay. And then you hand me these charts. And the gig was that night. And I had these charts sprayed out, and if you've heard some of the music, it's not for the faint of heart. But I remember walking out there kind of nervous, spreading my music out, and it was a drum event, and there were all drummers there. And I looked down, and right at the front is Dennis Chambers standing there. And I didn't know who everybody else was, but I knew who Dennis was. And I remember I think you brought it up a few years later, Dennis. Do you remember that?
I kind of remember, yeah.
Well, I'll never forget it, man, because there's still a stain on that stage where I stood.
What kind of stain would that be?
It was blood.
Lovely, man. You know, when I think about you, Dennis, Peter Erskine, Simon Phillips, all of the drummers, and not just drummers, but musicians who inspired me over the years, what I realized that they all have in common is that they show us what's possible on the instrument. You know, sometimes you hear somebody do something, you go, wow, I didn't even know that was possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a really beautiful thing when you hear somebody and they give you a perspective like that of what's possible. Dennis definitely did that for me. When I first heard Dennis and met Dennis, and I want to say maybe it was Barry Johnson, the bass player, who introduced to Dennis back in the day. They were working on a Don Blackman solo record, and Dennis, I remember going to Barry's house, and you would be over there jamming on that drum set.
On your drum set.
That's right. It was. I had parked a Gretsch kit at Barry's house.
I fell in love with that kid. He wouldn't sell it to me.
Oh. And I used to go over there and just listen, man, and it was so much fun. And that record that you made with Don Blackman is insane. I don't know if you guys know this record, but you have to hear what Dennis did here. And always, one of the things I love about Dennis, always the balance between discipline and his chops, but the chops always deployed in a tasty way.
Right.
And this is huge. That, you know, I've seen him with P-Funk. You know, he could, like somebody said earlier, lay down a pocket of 4 on the floor for a half hour straight and don't budge. But when it comes time for a drum solo, look out.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when you're able to balance these things in a musical way, that's what gets you called by artists all over the world to collaborate with you and all that sort of thing. Dennis, thank you, man, for being such an inspiration.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I am almost out of tape now. Thank you, Dennis. But I'm going to go around the room and just call on everybody, just a few sentences of encouragement or inspiration or frustration, whatever you got. It's all good. But just send it out to the students, and we'll all hang till everybody's done, and then do a countdown, and this will evaporate and live forever, all at the same time.
I'm going to start
Much
first.
appreciated.
I want to say, you know, for the, to encourage younger musicians, it's like try to, you know, listen to things that you don't know, and especially keep your ears open and be honest with yourself about what you're doing, and also, you know, when you look at the YouTube for the younger players now, that's how they learn how to play. Back then, when I learned how to play, or what we, as I see here, when we learned how to play, we learned by listening to vinyl. And, you know, like there's, you know, like things that catch your ear. And then you got to take the stylus and move it back and forth. But now, you know, with YouTube, young musicians, they don't know how to play music anymore. Or everything it's about chops for them. Everything for me and everybody I see here on this panel here, it's about music. Meaning that, you know, yeah, I had to learn how to play music before I learned how to play the chop stuff. The chop stuff was easy for me. You know, because you know, watching Billy Cobham and Tony Williams, you know, and Buddy Rich, you know, that was something I figure I have to learn how to do. And if I can't do it, I'm dying trying.
Yeah, and when we listen to those albums, we listen to the whole album. We studied the album from beginning to end. When Miles Smiles dropped, you know, or when I finally got hip to it, you can't study just one track like we do now on YouTube and then look at all the other cover versions. We studied the whole record.
Yeah.
We studied everybody on the record too. We listened to what everybody was playing, not just one person. Even if you played bass, obviously we spent a lot of time checking out what Ron was playing, but boy, we were listening like hawks about Tony and Herbie and Miles and Wayne. All of that was profound and still is.
It's so connected. Everything in it is connected, and maybe some of that through technology has disappeared, but there's a lot of other benefits, I think. Thank you, Dennis.
You know what? I got a chance to
share with us, Gary. What's some words for the youth?
I mean, Dennis really said it all, and I would say the biggest thing I would advise the youth to try to do is try to listening to what you're playing, and listening if you're playing with a band, listen to the whole thing, not just yourself. Listen to the sound that you're trying to make. You know, you're trying to reach the audience, so you all need to work together. And listening is the biggest thing I would push out there, as Dennis said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brother John Patitucci.
I guess it distills down to those things, you know, back down to rhythmic playing and understanding how to play with each other, how to agree on a pocket and make a time feel happen. And it's your sound. You have to work on your sound. What do you sound like? You know, that encompasses a lot of things.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, sound quality, that involves technique, pitch, touch, dynamics, all those things. But really, You asked before, how can bass players be better? I think you have to be the drummer's best friend. You have to think like a drummer too. You have to learn rhythmically how to connect all that harmonic information that you're trying to lay in there, and it just so happens that Maestro Carter's here. I think anybody who's ever listened to the way those bass lines are constructed, how they feel great and they're rhythmically so on point, and they make the whole music explode and in Technicolor. So if we can do that, and all these guys, all these bass players here, they know what to do.
Yeah.
So, that's what I would say.
Technicolor, man, I can hear that and see it. Simon. And you can speak to drummers or musicians or anybody.
Oh.
Well, one of the things I think we were very lucky in the era that we, grew up playing. There was a lot of recording going on, and we were also very lucky to hear back ourselves playing every single day, 3 times a day. I remember doing sessions in London from 75, 76, and it was 1, 2, 3 sessions a day. So you really got the chance to play music you didn't know, which was always exciting. Read a chart that might be just a simple chord chart or 4 pages of, the black page kind of thing. But you also, after 1, 2, 3 takes, got the chance to go into the control room and listen, to yourself. What kind of sound did the engineer get? What kind of studio you're in, which influences the sound of your instrument? You get to hear everybody else and what everybody is contributing to the music. And it's a very quick lesson. It's like, okay, I'm going to stay out of the way here. Maybe I should change my kick drum pattern here. I think we were very fortunate to be able to do that in that period. Nowadays, there's comparatively very little recording. And if there is recording, it's generally without a producer. We're having to produce ourselves. And I'm also talking to, the young here, the young kids that are now learning to play. We were lucky. We always had a producer in the room.
Yeah.
Somebody say, you're a little out of tune. Could you tune up a little bit? That snare drum sound, can we change that? I think the tune is too fast. Can we try another key? All these things which now seem to be missing. I cannot tell you how many.
Hey, Anthony, share some experience and wisdom with us a little bit.
I have to repeat what Simon said earlier, because it's something that I said about 3 weeks ago when I first did one of these as a guest, and that is to play everything. You can always find music that you can't stand. If you listen, you'll eventually hear something that really clicks and forever change your mind about what you can't stand. You said, well, I heard something in this genre that worked. I know we can make this work. I know it because I've heard it. You always try to find that one thing that makes it come to life. You wind up with a university education in musical styles when you can play anything that you hear. I never want to hear anybody say, I really like this, and I like this. This, and this. Nah, I don't have any use for that. That's a big mistake. So you always have to listen.
Yeah.
And I'd recommend this to any young player. You always listen. No matter how your instrument is used, maybe it's not used here, make it work. Find a way to make it used.
Thank you, Anthony. If I had an 11-foot bumper sticker for my car, I'd put every word of that on there. It's really brilliant. I mean, thank you so much. Hey, Benny, a word of advice from somebody who's seen it all, from Miles to Santana and in between.
I've seen a little bit, not like these guys. for sure. But what I learned from people like Dennis is tone and feel first before anything else. Listening to everything is absolutely key. You know, these bass players, little walk-ups in like bluegrass music or something like that. These little tiny things, like Anthony said, it's all there. It's all everywhere. And just try to play with humans, you know. Right now, like Dennis was saying, there's a lot of YouTube learning, which is, you know, cool and all that, and a lot of interesting ways of learning. But you got to get in there and work out grooves with a drummer or a bass player, or, you know, like with really good people. And they have to push you. They got to make you better. You can't just play with with something that's static. You got to have people that are kicking your butt all the time, and that's how you get better. And humans, we're playing music for humans, not machines. So you got to play with humans to get better. And that's all I got to say.
Beautiful.
Well
Billy
said.
Sheehan. Billy Sheehan. Oh, Billy.
Oh, yes.
You were still hanging on Benny's last word, I could tell, but yeah, I'm almost out of tape.
It was a smaller bumper sticker.
I was going to say there's decades of wisdom being put forth here today, but in fact, sorry guys, but it's centuries. When you start adding us all our ages up, but that's a good thing. The kind of experience all of us have had, to all the students watching, you see all of our love for each other, and built around our love for Dennis here today, of course, but our love and respect for each other is so supremely important. Love and respect your peers and your friends, and surround yourself with great people. Hang out with great people. They say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Hang around with those that you really can be inspired by. Dennis changed my life. Most everybody in one of these panels here today has changed my life or just expanded my horizons, and I'm supremely grateful for that. And it never ends. Steve Vai told me that one of Frank Zappa's rules were, he said there were two rules. Don't stop, number one. Number two, keep going.
Oh man, that'll fit on any bumper sticker. Don't stop and keep going. That's beautiful. Thank you, Billy. Chester, please.
Oh man, first of all, I'm overwhelmed. It's just like you guys, like this is good. Getting to hang out with my heroes online is kind of cool. I would address the whole process thing. First of all, you look around this room and the level of excellence is ridiculous. The way to that, I would remind you, when you're learning, speed is overrated. Most of these guys are like not only fast, but clean with fast. And that's, you just gotta, your metronome is your friend when you're learning. You know, Dennis talked about learning stuff from vinyl, from records. I mean, basically, I remember the days of playing something that was a 45 and you slow it down to 33 to try to learn it, you know. These days, you got software that's fantastic for that. One is called the Amazing Slow Downer. There's several where you can slow that thing down and actually it doesn't change pitch as opposed to slowing down vinyl. And it's a great learning tool. I would speak, I know drummers do this. I'm not sure about bass players, but when you get frustrated and that thing's really hard, okay, sometimes we get frustrated, so we start jamming instead of practicing. Don't give that more than 2 minutes. You know, blow off the steam, get the tension off, and then go back to work. You know, because otherwise you didn't learn anything. You just jammed. Okay. Yeah. So, and I mean, and not to say you can't discover things in jamming, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I would just say, really look. You know, as you look at everybody that's been on this panel and go out and listen to the stuff they've been on, again, no, they didn't get there by accident, like very deliberate practice, you know. You know, yeah, sometimes it's, again, sometimes you just sit there and you just create, you let stuff happen. But yeah, just be deliberate in the thing you're trying to accomplish, you know.
Thanks, Chester. And the maestro who has walked further, longer, and wider and deeper than any bass player, in my opinion, in history, Mr. John Carter, please set me straight. Preach to me.
3 things. Thanks for the 3, 6, 9, 16 of you being here for me to say hello all at the same time, and only cost me $4 for the coffee to watch you guys do this. Secondly, you know, one of the things I tell my students is to, when you practice, look at your lesson plan before you practice. And then when you finish, read it again and see how much you got done.
Nice.
To develop a disciplined way to get better at your practice gets better. The second thing I tell them is to understand what the boss wants from you. What do you have to play to make him sound better? Because you're there. And if you get him there for the first 2 choruses, in the 3rd chorus, you own him. That's what the last thing is that every night you go to work, it's a chance to play some wonderful music. Shut your mouth and open your mind. And walk this right by you. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you all. Dennis, I just realized, and I'm not, because we're out of time, but the next one we do, I'm going to tell a Mick Jagger story that involves you and me, and that's been waiting for many years to come the reality of it. So I'm just going to let that go and bait the audience for later on. But I will say humbly, I'm just amazed, you know, this week and every week that you give your time, which is something that you can't replace. So spending these few hours together is big for me, and it's helping me a lot, and a lot of people get through what we're going through. So I owe you all a huge debt of gratitude. When Berkeley is back up and running, I look forward to having you on campus with us. Maybe not all together. Well, maybe all together. We'll figure that out and just have a blowout and make music and hug and talk and have $4 cups of coffee on Mr. Carter. I'm sure that's a real deal, by the way. If you can find one for $4 now, you must be making it at home.
Tip jar.
Yeah. But did I got to everybody, right? I don't want to leave. Yeah. So thank you all so much. We'll see you next week or next time. And Dennis, you know, I hope you know how much we all love you and we appreciate you. And musically and as a human being, it doesn't get any better. So thank you.
Exactly.
Love you, man.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm going to count backwards from 5. And when I get to my pinky, you won't see it anymore.
Yeah.
5.
Bye-bye,
Wait, which one is that?
3.
Bye, y'all.
2.
What comes after that?
Take care.
1. Take care, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.